The Prime Minister has announced more than $1 billion to support Canada's beleaguered softwood lumber industry. The bulk of funding will go toward loan guarantees, with the rest for product development and diversification. Softwood lumber has long been a target of the U.S. It recently raised anti-dumping duties on the product. Prime Minister Carney says that the new measures are necessary given the state of Canada-U.S. relations.
At this hinge moment in history, Canada is starting to shift from reliance to resilience. Together, we're going to write our own story rather than let others dictate theirs to us.
Mark Carney also says the government will use Canadian lumber as part of its promise to build affordable homes. A federal home building program will launch in the fall, providing $25 billion in financing for private sector home builders. The leader of the Conservative Party responded to the Prime Minister's announcement. Pierre Poilievre suggested that the money for softwood lumber would not be necessary if Mark Carney had kept his word.
Mark Carney promised us that he would put elbows up, that he would handle Trump, and that he would negotiate a win by ending the tariffs. He's broken all of those promises. And we know President Trump is someone that nobody can control, but that's why it was wrong for Mr. Carney to promise that he could do so.
Katie Simpson was hosting Power and Politics today. Katie, you guys had the U.S. ambassador to Canada on the show today. There's some new insight from that about the state of trade talks. What did you learn?
Yeah, so we keep trying to get a better understanding of why Canada was the first country to get those increased tariffs. Donald Trump had set the August 1st deadline. That was Friday, of course. But it was only Canada that had the increased tariffs kick in right away. The tariffs related to border security going from 25% up to 35%. But keep in mind, there are huge exceptions to that sort of tariff right there because there are exemptions for CUSMA-compliant goods. So any Canadian goods that are being shipped into the United States or sent into the United States that meet the free trade agreement requirements, they remain tariff-free. But because Canada did not catch a deal, but at the same time, Mexico, who is in this huge North American free trade agreement with both Canada and the United States, they were actually able to get an extension. So we put it to the U.S. ambassador to Canada, Pete Hoekstra, to sort of get a better understanding of why is it that Mexico was able to get an extension. Their tariffs did not go up, but Canada was hit. Have a listen.
It's because of the feeling in the room or the energy in the room when the negotiators are talking to each other. And, so the decision was made by our team, to the president. The president decided, let's give Mexico an extension, put the 35% tariff on Canada.
That's the first time that I've heard from an American official that essentially the reason is the vibes were off, the energy in the room was off. What we have heard previously was that the Americans wanted to make an example of Canada because Canada, of course, has retaliated as a result of some of the tariffs that have been imposed earlier. So that was certainly an interesting aspect to what's going on there. But later, Ambassador Hoekstra said, listen, I'm not in the room. And he added sort of some couching there, like saying the word assumed to some of his answers. But certainly that was the first time we heard that perspective. We're waiting to find out if there are going to be any conversations between Prime Minister Mark Carney and U.S. President Donald Trump. That's still unclear at this point, other than what we are hearing that the Prime Minister today saying that they will have a conversation when the time is right.
Yeah, Prime Minister Mark Carney also in BC earlier today announcing support for another industry that has been hit hard by tariffs. So what does that say to you about the way Canada sees the negotiation?
Yeah, huge new supports for the softwood lumber industry, and that is something that has been targeted. It's been a long-standing irritant in the Canada-U.S. relationship, but again, the Trump administration sort of ratcheting up the tension there with larger countervailing duties and sort of a review of the entire process that could lead to even more problems for the Canadian softwood lumber industry. But if we sort of take a step back and look at what's going on here, this is sort of another major announcement by the Prime Minister to offer support, and it suggests that the Canadian government is positioning itself to be able to weather a storm. You don't make an announcement like this if you think that these problems are going to go away. It appears to be something that is really going to be here for the long haul. At least that's the perspective from right now. No country that has negotiated with the United States has been able to get out of any sort of tariff regime. Some tariffs have been lowered. We've seen the UK, the EU, Japan get negotiated deals. You have to put a big sort of asterisk beside it, though. What we know about these agreements, they're a framework for a deal. They haven't necessarily sort of been, all of the nitty-gritty has been worked out. It's very different from what a traditional trade deal would be. Normally, trade deals are these thick volumes of documents, and every little detail is worked out to certain types of products and different kinds of tariffs and all these kinds of different things and qualifications, rules of origin. That's not what's going on here. It's a very different agenda as Donald Trump tries to reshape global trading relationships.
Katie Simpson in Ottawa, thank you. Okay, Brian Menses is Executive Director of the Independent Wood Processors Association, and he joins us today from Penticton, BC. Brian, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you for listening.
So $1.2 billion to support Canada's softwood lumber industry. That's a lot of money. What does that dollar figure mean for the people, the businesses that you help support?
Well, it is a good step in the right direction, I must say. We're small, medium-sized, kind of family-owned companies, and we're pretty stretched as far as being able to come up with the dollars to bond for the tariffs that we have to pay. And it's getting harder and harder to go to the bank and ask for money. I'm glad the federal government has recognized this when Prime Minister Carney said today that part of these funds, $700 million of it, will be available for any company, regardless of size. And it's a big step for us to have them as partners in this risk that we've had to share for the last eight years.
Yeah, this has been going on for quite a long time. In terms of the aid that was announced, this aid package, are there any concerns that you have about it?
Well, actually, a couple things to be aware of. One is the dollars for diversification is good. That is a reverse of decision of the past government of the Prime Minister Trudeau government, which actually cut back some funding on that side of the equation for other priorities at the time. But now we're going ahead to understand the importance of diversity, so that's a good step again. But let's keep in mind, there is another part of this announcement, and it's about workforce adjustment and helping 6,000 people in the industry probably move out of the industry. So we know there's going to be more pain yet, and I think the federal government is well aware of that pain. So I agree with your last person speaking that this isn't going to end soon.
Yeah, and it has, as I said, been going on for quite a long time. And when you talk about a storm to weather, I would say that softwood lumber and those who are within that industry have weathered storms in the past. Are you concerned about the resilience of those who have made their living in this industry?
Well, I am very concerned about it, especially, we talk about tariffs and duties and throw these terms around. What's unique for us in this is the recent announcement on dumping goes back to 2023. That means they're looking for, whenever these court cases are resolved in that, they're looking for us to pay retroactively, which we can't go to our customers to ask for them to pay back the money that's owed retroactively. This is riding on us. Right now, the cost going forward is on the American consumers, but the cost going back is all in these small and medium-sized companies across Canada.
Brian, I've been a bit struck by the spotlight that has been shone, I would say, in the last kind of 2 weeks on softwood lumber and the real put, and of course it's because of the increased tariffs here, and I understand that. But there seems to be a real push to make softwood lumber be part of whatever negotiations are happening. Do you think that is there a solve? Because as I say, this has been going on, I can think back to 25 years that we've been talking about softwood lumber and the issues with the United States. Do you have a glimmer of hope here?
Well, I'd like to have a glimmer of hope. I do applaud, the government for trying to include this in this bilateral discussion. It wasn't included in previous bilateral discussions going all the way back to the original free trade agreement. Everybody said this as being a specific issue that is outside of it. I have to say that if we can't sit down at the table and solve softwood lumber together and problems around that, it's going to escalate to other areas like aluminum and steel and copper. And this is what we're seeing right now. Any irritant needs between friends. If it doesn't get resolved, it starts blowing up. And that's kind of the world we're in right now.
Brian, really appreciate your perspective. Thank you so much. That's Brian Menses, Executive Director of the Independent Wood Processors Association.
Thank you very much.